But at the heart of it, when you look at kind of intellectual property, which is the umbrella term that incorporates all of those, the idea is that, or for the intangible aspects of your business, so something that you can't touch and feel that still has value, how do you go about capturing that value as well as protecting it? So, as an example, you come up with a new great product that is innovative, that's breakthrough, that differentiates your product from the other ones that are out there.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and this is Unveiling Journeys. A smidge about me. I love the power of networking, the power of being just not the smartest person in every room and paying for like high end masterminds so that you can be exposed to some of the coolest people and then just straight up asking them, hey, who do you know that I need to know? And by the way, here's who I know. Who of them do you need to know so I can help everybody that I'm surrounded with to go crush it? And that's exactly how I met my guest today. I was interviewing with somebody and she was incredible. And she said, oh my gosh, do you know Devin? You should come be on his show. And we actually already had an opportunity that I was on his show. And I said, I want to hear your story too. Come be on my show. So that's where we ended up and how we met today. And thank you, Devin. You're coming on and you're getting ready to unveil your journey and share everybody kind of how your story unfolded to get to where you're at today. So do me a favor. Everybody, thank you. Welcome, Devin, for coming. But Devin, tell us all about who you are right now and what you're up to, and then we'll circle back around to kind of where you started in all this.
Sounds good. Well, that's who I am, and then what I'm up to could be a short conversation or a very long one. So I'll try and keep it somewhere in the middle. So I am, I guess I'd say, an intellectual property attorney. So I work or started my own firm, Miller IP Law, 7, 8 years ago now. And I've been doing patents and trademarks for about 13 plus years. That's a portion of who I am. Alongside of that, I'm also a father of four. So I have oldest is my son that's 14, almost 15, and then three girls behind him, ranging down to 9 years old. Been married for, oh, now I'd have to think. That's off the top of my head. I think I'd have to look, 17, 18 years. I think just 17 coming on 18 years. And love to run, be active, exercise, go out in the outdoors. I could go on, but that's just a very short snippet. The other thing is I kind of have a balance. I like to do a lot of startups and small businesses. So the law firm that I work or that I founded and that I run focuses a lot on startups and small businesses, but I've also done a few myself. So I kind of tend to balance both that competing interests. They go pretty well together, but hand in hand, but doing startups and small businesses as well as running the law firms. That's a very short snippet and overview, and happy to unpack it any more as makes sense.
Yeah, well, you're the first person that I've met and that I know that focuses so sincerely on this intense niche. Tell me just a smidge more of like, here's what I do for the clients that I have so that they can know, like, oh my gosh, I need to know you in my life, Devin.
I don't know. That's a fair question. As far as what I guess how I got into it, or is it more of just kind of why I focus on it now, or help me understand kind of what would be the best way to
Well, like
direct
if
that
somebody's
question?
thinking, I need to hire you, like what kind of you do, you're an attorney for patents and being able to go into that is somebody's looking for a very specific person and they could be right now hearing you out and going, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that I needed to know you. What type of work in that does it like encompass for what you do for your clients?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, the short answer: patents, trademarks, copyrights. Now, kind of who that is. That is for the vast majority, not every business that has applicability. So it's a pretty broad as far as spectrum. I don't know that it's niche from the perspective of most businesses need it. Now, to your point, do all of them know that they need it? Maybe or maybe not. Depends on how long you've been doing business and how experienced you are. But at the heart of it, when you look at kind of intellectual property, which is the umbrella term that incorporates all of those, the idea is that, or for the intangible aspects of your business, so something that you can't touch and feel that still has value, how do you go about capturing that value as well as protecting it? So, as an example, you come up with a new great product that is innovative, that's breakthrough, that differentiates your product from the other ones that are out there. Most of that requires a lot of R&D, research and development, time to manufacture, time to get it in place, all of the time and effort to iterate on it. And yet once you do that, it's kind of like the magic trick that as soon as you know what's already out there. When you see someone else's product, then to figure out what it is and how to reverse engineer it isn't a very hard step. And so, kind of if you simply put in all of that effort and then somebody comes and knocks it off or copies it, it disincentivizes you from wanting to invest in there. So that'd be an example of why you'd go get a patent, so that as you put all that time and effort, that you're able to capture that value of creating that new innovation. Kind of the same thing with trademarks as well as copyrights. Trademarks are going to be on the branding side. So if you're to go create the next Apple or Pepsi or Coke or Nike, or pick whatever brand you want, all of those put in a large and considerable amount of effort into developing their brand, making it known, making or having a really or establish how quality of service or quality of products or anything of that nature, and keeping it forefront of consumers' mind. And so to capture that value, well, how do you capture the value of a brand? Well, it's, yes, you can see a logo, but other than that, the name of the business and that oftentimes it's kind of hard to necessarily capture. So again, that kind of falls under intellectual property. So, all of those you walk through, and if you're inventing something, you're building a brand, or on the copyrights, you're doing more of something on the creative nature, to where you're writing a book or a podcast or doing a video or doing a picture or a sculpture or a painting or any of those. All of those are kind of different aspects that your business offers, that in and of itself are hard to capture because they're not necessarily physical or tangible. And that's where we work with a lot of startups and small businesses to kind of capture that value as well as protect it.
Oh, man, that's so cool. I was just talking to somebody about a trust and how you put your intellectual property in it, and then you like the switcheroo of all this stuff. I thought, oh, this is so fascinating to think of the idea of your intellectual property. It could be something you've invented or a system or a thing, and you're like kind of the master of this. So this is what people need to consider, stuff that they're working on, that they need to know you. Okay, let's do this. Tell me from the beginning, like where are you from, and like what did you think you even wanted to be when you grew up? Like did you fall into the same, like I wanted to be an astronaut and I definitely am not that now, right? But growing up, and then some of the start of like where your journey shifted, like going to school.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long, or it could be a long answer, but so I'll go back to growing up. So I'm in Utah. So I grew up or in Utah. It's in a small town. It's still a relatively small town, growing more than I'd like it to, but that's a whole different conversation of everybody having to deal with the people finding the small towns and wanting to build there. But I grew up there, went off to school at Brigham Young University, BYU, here in Utah, and studied electrical engineering. So that was kind of what I went into. During that time, after the first year in school, decided to go serve a religious mission for my church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or nicknamed Mormons. And so I went off to Taiwan for a couple of years, learned Chinese, served the religious mission, and then
Yeah.
came back. And with that, continued on studying electrical engineering. I also picked up a second major, which was to do Chinese, kind of just added that on. And so that was kind of undergraduate as I was coming along and doing that. And as I was getting towards the end of undergraduate, the question was kind of, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I still don't know if I have that answer, but at least at that time, I was kind of looking at it and saying, what I don't necessarily want to do is be an electrical engineer. That wasn't that I didn't like electrical engineering. It was more of the stereotypical electrical engineer. You're gonna do you're gonna be a small cog in a big wheel. You're gonna be doing the same project for an extended period of time. Along the way, you don't really have a lot of say until you work your way up quite a bit into the business. And so you're taking 10 to 15 years before you really have any direction as to what you're working on or stay within that. So that all of that kind of said, well, I don't know that that's long term what I want to do. And so as I was kind of considering a few options, kind of narrowed it down to liking kind of the legal aspect of things, and going down the law perspective. And at that point, I had already kind of uh, I had an uncle that was doing intellectual property, and had or worked with a few businesses that had already kind of or had that as an aspect of the business. So I was aware of that. So thought that would be interesting. Alongside that, also thought startups and small businesses, kind of the business aspect of things, but also be interesting. Kind of rather than choose one or the other, decide to go straight down the middle and did both. So I went off to Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio, and got both a MBA as well as a law degree. And kind of from that, always been chasing both. So always been doing full-time attorney, as well as alongside of that, I really always been doing a different startups and small businesses along the way. So that's kind of the shorter version alongside of all the other juggling of life and family and kids and everything else. But on the kind of the career path side of things and kind of what I want to do when I grow up, that kind of led to a little bit of getting into the law aspect.
Oh, love it. Yeah. So in that, when you shifted your journey, were you taking on anybody that was like mentoring you? Were you coming to these decisions on your own, or were you seeing like, oh, gosh, I don't gonna like you said, you're just gonna be a small cog in the wheel of all of this stuff. Like some of the people that were influencing you along the way of trying to decide, like, oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna shift my degree path. Like, how did you come to that decision? Other than just thinking you're the small person in it. And I want to be bigger.
Yeah, I mean, going back to, was there kind of any mentoring or that? Not really. I mean, I could give, and I probably should give credit a bit to my dad in the sense that he'd always done different aspects of it, or of doing his own businesses or participating in startups or smaller businesses and kind of working growing them. So I did have kind of that aspect or that perspective. But to by and large, I don't know that there was a good aspect of me having a mentor or someone. It was a lot of just, this sounds interesting, this sounds fun, I'll get into it and figure it out along the way. And so, a lot of it, I certainly had, my wife was a cheerleader in the background and always encouraging me and supporting me, and that was great. I said my dad was a good example of doing business things. But beyond that, really, it was mostly just kind of jumping in, figuring out along the way, and having fun doing it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Now, going from your degree, what did you do right after you graduated school?
Just went right into the next degree. So I mean, are you saying the law degree and the MBA
Law
degree, or
degree.
from
Yeah.
undergraduate to graduate?
No,
Okay,
like
yeah.
after your law degree, like your first, like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm gonna like hone in on going to law. Like, did you open your own practice right away? Or did you go intern for people? Like, what was that like leaving your final degree to decide into this path that you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, it was more of a progression. If I back it up just a little bit, because so doing the JD MBA or the law degree and the MBA, typically if you're to do them separately, it's 5-year program. I mean, if you're to get them one after the other, if you combine them, you shave a year off and you have 4 years. And so while I was doing the 4 years, I think it was the second year on, I was doing a law clerk. So I did it for a couple of different law firms that's there locally in the area in Cleveland, Ohio, which is kind of where you do the more of the grunt work or some of the leg work for the attorneys. You get a good experience, you get to learn, you kind of get to see what they're doing. And so I was doing that all throughout school and had a good opportunities to do some of that initial work there. Kind of alongside of that, I started my first business when I was still in or studying the JD MBA, or at least the beginnings of that business. And so, kind of studying the stage at the time. I had a 2-year-old, I had a newborn. I was studying the 2 degrees. I was working about 20 hours a week as a law clerk. And then it was either, I can't remember, if it was an email or a flyer or something along those lines, but I saw, that there was a business competition to where it was kind of a multidisciplinary to where you get different people from different backgrounds and degrees and you put them all together, you form a group, and then you figure out an idea and enter it in the business competition. So I said, oh, why not? Let's add that on to everything else I already have going on. And so I entered into that competition, met 3 other people, didn't know them before that, and we entered it the first year. Didn't go anywhere. We had fun. Third place, second place, I'd have to remember. And then we split up, went our separate ways. We were all juniors or in our third of our various 4-year degrees at the time. So we came back the next year and formed a group again, entered into the competition, decided to go different direction. And doing some wearables to monitor hydration. And this was before Apple Watch was a thing, or before, Fitbit or any of those were out there, but it was a much earlier stage. And so that was the genesis for that. We entered in the competition, took second place again, which I'm still slightly bitter at, but that's a different story. But after that, that was really the genesis for, as we were making that exit, we were all planning on going separate ways and doing different things, and really it wasn't going to be a good foundation, even if we'd wanted to kind of continue to be a group and work together on the project. But I thought that there was a good opportunity there. So I took my winnings from taking second place, let them keep it, and I that was basically my buyout of their position within the business, and then continued on. So I had already, now to go all the way back to your question, which is I was already doing a law clerk. I was already doing some of the legal work. And so I'd already kind of had that as a good background. Similarly, on the business side, I'd already kind of doing some of the business competitions, doing some of the legwork there. And so as I came out of law school, I was originally, so I was, or planning or focusing on at least doing a full-time attorney alongside of what I was going to do on the business side. And so I had applied for a number of jobs in different areas. I was actually planning, I wanted to going back to Utah. That's where both my wife and I are from. That's where family's at. But originally, it was going to be taking a job in Texas. And then the last minute, another firm that I'd applied for made a job offer, allowed us to come back to Utah, and kind of where we went. I worked I've been doing an attorney for about 13 years. I worked for other firms, a couple different sizes. One was more of a local firm, one was more of a national firm for about 7, 8 years. And kind of as I was hitting that trigger point, was saying, okay, now it was probably more like 6 years, 6, 7 years. I was kind of figuring out what do I want to do long term as an attorney, as a career path. And while I enjoyed those, I was working for big clients like Amazon and Intel and Red Hat, Ford, and others. But for that, I really found that I like more to the startup and the small business clients. And yet, for the vast majority of the larger firms, that's not what they focus on. That's not their main clientele, and you don't get to do much of that work. And so I kind of decided to make a shift and go from working for the larger firms with the bigger clients to starting Miller IP Law, which has more of the focus on the startup and small business.
Oh,
That
that's
was a long answer to a
I
shorter
love it.
question, but that's kind of, it gives you an idea of kind of the background there.
So is this kind of like now you know what you want to be when you grow up, kind of a thing? Like you've got your own law firm.
I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. I enjoy it. So, I mean, I do it, but I mean, I'm probably, and my wife would attest to, the stereotypical entrepreneur in the sense that there's always in the next business idea, always something that sounds like fun, always other things I'd like to pursue. I enjoy the law side of it. Been doing it for a while. Love to work with startups and small businesses. Alongside of that, I've done everything from food trucks with my kids. We have a small religious, products business that my kids also get to work with and participate with. The wearables business that I did, made an exit from that probably a couple years ago now. But that one is still alive and doing well, but I don't participate with that one anymore, just where I made the exit as it got acquired, and a few other things. So what do I want to grow? I probably will never know what I want to grow up or do when I grow up, and then I'll retire, and then I'll probably still do something or puttering around there. I also have aspirations. So we live on about 19, a little over 19 acres. I still love to have an orchard, still love to have a whole bunch of fruit trees, like to have animals, kind of have a hobby farm, do other businesses. So I have no idea what I want to grow it or be when I grow up, but as long as I'm enjoying it and it supports the family and goes well, I'll just be along for the ride.
That's incredible. Tell me, because this is amazing. I love hearing your story and all this. I know some people are like, well, he's just talking. Like, no, I really love hearing all this stuff because it's what people don't know the ride that you've been on to get to where you're at. But here's the important thing. You show up. You show up for your podcast, you show up for your clients, you show up for your family and your kids. But like the times that you show up for other people that are in business, you don't have to. Really, right? And you don't have to show up to the quality that you do. Why do you keep caring so much about all the people and you keep showing up for them in the manner that you do?
I don't know. I mean, that's a fair question. I mean, I think probably, the honest answer is to a degree. I don't know, naturally you're wired that way or became to become that wired that way, in the sense that I don't know that I would find the same level of enjoyment if I wasn't putting in my all with or as whatever for whatever I was doing. And that's the same whether it's family, business, or anything else, in the sense that if I'm kind of just phoning it in or kind of going along or tagging along or kind of doing things, without the full heart of it. Could I do it? Probably to a degree. Would it make it less stressful or easier? Yeah, maybe. But on the other hand, I think that by the same token, I probably wouldn't get the same level of enjoyment or satisfaction out of it, in the sense that if I was really phoning it in, then it really does feel like more of a job where I'm just checking the boxes and doing what I need to get the job done. And if I'm enjoying it, then I naturally will just put in the effort and the time to have a better outcome, better represent clients, better run the business, and do those type of activities because I'm naturally enjoying it, and that's what I prefer to do. So I don't know if there's a great answer in there, but it's probably just to a degree. If I enjoy it and do it, then I naturally probably put in that effort to do as good a job as I can.
Oh, that's awesome. No, what are your some of your favorite parts that you enjoy doing the most of all the work that you're in right now?
Probably on the business aspect of things. I mean, so that's not to say I don't like working with startups, don't do or like the legal work. But if I say, hey, if I have free time, I'm naturally doing things, it's probably the business side of optimizing the process. And so, as an example, with the law firm, law firms inherently, most law firms, one, have terrible processes. Most attorneys like to just do the legal work and focus on nothing else. So they don't really ever give time and effort for, as an example, how do you make a website that provides, all the information that they need to when they get there? So what is this going to cost me? Can I schedule a meeting? And then once they do schedule a meeting, what is that process for setting that up? How do you kick the matter off? How do you walk them through the details and the information you're going to need? And kind of figuring that out, setting out all up, having processes, having automations, having workflows, all of that probably is enjoyable inherently as doing the legal work itself. And not that the legal work isn't fun to see all the new inventions and the businesses, but I have to say kind of naturally, if I were to say what are the areas that I probably gravitate towards, is how do I make this a better, smoother, more efficient process? And some of that is even when a client says, hey, I couldn't figure this out, or hey, I don't understand this, or I got a question, rather than just simply answering the question. I'll answer the question, but then it will also be, how do I now make that so that that question doesn't come up next time, that it's already inherently within the process, it's already inherently answered for them. And that's kind of the things that I tend to have fun doing.
Oh, that's cool. That's some of the nitty-gritty that we have to have people that love enjoying getting into those details versus like the visionary that's like, help me. And like me, I'm like, I have this grandiose thing. Can you help me get it down to the final aspects of it all? That's awesome. What are some of the things that you do to continue to help you grow, like in your like action taking or your mental ability? Like some of the things I like to do are reading like motivational books or keeping me structured or keeping me on my targets, right? What do you like
Mhm.
to do to challenge yourself?
Yeah, a couple things. One is probably more so business related, and one's probably not. I mean, on the business side, so I love books, or I love or consuming information. I don't love to read, and it's not that I don't like to read; it's that I don't like to sit down. I have a hard time just sitting down with a book and not doing something else alongside. But I love to read books in the sense of doing audiobooks. So quite a bit. I mean, I love to. I'll usually read, or I said I'll put in quotes, read, listen to an audiobook, one every week or two, and wide variety of different topics. Some of them are business related, some of them are more, fun, just, or, fanciful, or something that my kids reading, or other things. But generally, they kind of incorporate different aspects. And I find half the time I'll be or listening to a business book, or listening to a book, and it'll raise an idea that, or gives me, or spurs something that I can do with the business. That it's not directed to a law firm or how to run a practice, but just something that's a good idea that I can incorporate in. So, on that sense, listening to both the audiobooks as well as a lot of podcasts is probably one aspect I do. And the other one is probably just more generally to say mental health, keeping our focus, keeping a good work-life balance. I tend to enjoy exercising, so I usually start out my morning exercising. Right now, I'll usually run 10, 11 miles in the morning, and then usually bike for 30 or 40 miles after that. So it's kind of a bit mixed, to where I'll usually listen to the audiobooks or podcasts while I'm doing that, but kind of having that ability to pause or step away from the business aspect, kind of getting that clearing of the head, is a way that, on those two aspects, I kind of keep both the balance, as well as kind of keep up on different things, and come up with new ideas and ways to improve on.
Oh, that's awesome. You just add swimming and you got your own triathlon every morning.
My son is really into running. He does a lot of mountain biking as well as running, and he keeps trying to tell me, I'm like, I'm not that amazing of a swimmer, and it would take a lot more time and effort that I want to put into it, because the nice thing about running or biking is I can just get up, go directly from the house. I don't have a pool or somewhere that, so now I'd have to go to a gym, take another half an hour to drive each way, do all of that. And I don't really love swimming that much. I could do it. I could swim, but I don't. It's not something I enjoy as much. So I'm like, so he's like, so I think that if I were to do anything, I've done a number of marathons and half marathons and that. If I were to do anything to kind of up the game on that, I'd probably do more of an ultra marathon, which is what my son keeps trying to tell me is something that I should do. And I never quite made that commitment, or taken the plunge yet.
That's fun. That's fun. I like that he keeps challenging you in some of that stuff. Like, Dad, come on, let's do this. You got this.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so do me a favor. The idea for people to reach out to you is important for me, meaning like, oh my gosh, you're interviewing somebody that's doing something that I never thought I needed, or now I know I'm in the spot where I've aligned myself. I need to know you. What is your favorite way that you want people to come find you?
You only asked for a favorite way. I'll give you three ways. It's kind of depends on how they want to connect up or reach out. So one is if they just want to, so I do free 15, 20-minute consultations. It's not going to answer every question you have, but it gives you kind of a good overview or start to what you're doing and what you might want to consider. So to do schedule that, they can just go to strategymeeting.com, all one word, pretty simple. And that will link to my calendar. It gives you the ability to set some up. So strategymeeting.com for my direct. If it is more just generally checking out, the services we offer, the website, the information, we have a ton of resources. As you mentioned, we have a podcast, all of that good stuff. And they just go to the main website, which is lawwithmiller.com. The last one. I know we have presence and I do things that are repostings on other platforms. The one I'm most active on or typically am on is more on the LinkedIn side. I like the business aspect of it. And so if they want to connect up with me there, they can just go to meetmiller.com. So
I love it.
lawwithmiller.com for the main website. One-on-one strategy meeting is strategysession.com and meetmiller.com is where they could connect up with me on.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. This is my favorite part where I get to ask everybody, what is your favorite, like one or two pieces of advice or nuggets that you lean into that you love giving to people, but also you love leaning onto yourself in everything that you're up to?
Probably the piece of advice, which is also so backing up, doing my own podcast, we talked a lot of startups and small businesses there. Also worked with a lot of startups and small businesses on the law firm and done several of my own. And within all of that, probably the one that I most consistently hear across the board and find myself in agreement is pretty simple. Is just get started. So in other words, more often than not, people always look back, wish I got started earlier. Same thing. There's aspects where I usually hit things pretty early on, but there's always ones where I wish I get started earlier, started my law firm earlier, doing some of those other things. And so I think the aspect of there's always the better times later down the road that you can make excuses why the timing isn't right now or why it's don't have the money, you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, you don't have the knowledge. There's plenty, and they're all good excuses, but at the end of the day I think that just simply getting started, getting things going is more important than or whether or not it's the perfect timing. So simple takeaway would just be just get started and figure it out as you go.
That is wonderful advice. Because if people are thinking, well, should I? Yes. Yes. You've been given permission now from Devin to just start and even attack onto that. Like done is better than perfect, right? Like just fall forward in it, fall forward in it, or lean forward into it. Just all those things. That's so good. Thank you so much for coming. I love being able to hear like your story and your journey and why you're doing all this stuff and the impact that you're making on everybody by working even all the way down to like small business owners. That's awesome. We need people that are like able to come to you for this stuff instead of like, well, I need the biggest and broadest and best and because my thing's this. No. Like you work with so many cool people and I love that you're just so heart-centered in that. And analytical, like the thing in your back thing to the back of your head. It's like, hey, welcome, come with Devin because he wants to do all the fun analytical stuff with you. Anyway,
Absolutely.
thank you for coming. I'm so glad that I got to have a chance to interview you. And everybody, thank you for staying and being able to come and listen to Devin's story so that way you could connect with him. As you know, we all hang out on LinkedIn. If you can't find him, come ask me and I'll get you connected to him. And that way you can be a part of his world and take a peek to see if you need his services. So everybody have a great day and I will see you all on the next episode.